back to PSGL. George Morgan here and Jack Cannan. All the lights are currently lit here on track. And it is go, go, go! Donoso with a crafty manoeuvre up the inside. Masterclass from the Chilean.
Crucial championship points on offer here.
Do not count down Danny Berezne.
Longe has done the job. This is for the win between these two.
Freddie Rasmussen wins the United States Grand Prix.
Alfie Butcher wins for the first time ever. Lucas Blakely takes the championship. It's Barry Foreman.
Jarno Opmeer is your champion. Well, good evening everybody and welcome back to PSGL. Yes, we are back once more, this time for round 8 as we now head to Qatar. The Losail circuit, we've come off the back of Austria where Jarno Opmeer would become the first driver this season to take more than one race win. He is now ahead and gone in the championship standings with 20 points separating he and Brendan Lee, the real OG, who won the F1 Sim Racing title all the way back in it would have been back in 2017. Still chasing his first PSGL crown, of course, all the way back in season 34. He came close to pipping Jarno Opmeer. He was 2 points from winning that title. That's going to be burning, I'm sure, in the mindset of Brendan Lee. But nonetheless, we still have many rounds to go. Jack Cannan with me, as always. Jack, what a title contest we have here. Jarno, though, he's clear tonight. Doesn't have to worry about losing the title lead here this evening. He's got a 20-point buffer.
Yeah, this for him, I suppose, is a throwaway round if he so wishes to. Of course, he's not going to think of it as a throwaway round because it's an opportunity for us to extend his championship lead even more. But if he did miss last week, of course, probably one of the most chaotic endings to a Grand Prix we've seen in a while. We thought it was bad at Mexico. I mean, Austria was incredible. Jarno Opmeer, of course, as we said, getting his second victory of the season and now extending his championship lead as well. And a disappointing day, you'd have to say, for Brendan Lee, who's second in the championship, of course, but came away without... we all thought that he was in prime position to win, but at the very end, all came undone towards the end of the stint. So we're looking forward to this. But we still have, even though our run of different winners is at an end, our stat of pole position continues in that continuously the pole sitter has not finished higher than 5th place so far this season, which is still, to me, incredible.
Yeah, it is. It's truly astounding, and it's a record that we've never really embraced before in the history of PSGL, so it's quite interesting. But here is the calendar. This is where we've been, and next is, of course, where we're going. Of course, we finished at Bahrain, Britain, Japan, Jeddah, Belgium, Mexico, and, of course, last week, Austria. We are here tonight for round 8, September 25th at Qatar. Next up, we have a trip to Las Vegas, Texas, Brazil, and then the grand finale at Abu Dhabi. The big question is, though, will Jarno wrap up the title prior to Abu Dhabi, or will it go all the way? We'll have to wait and see. We've got plenty of chapters still remaining. We're into the second half of the campaign proper now, so plenty on the line. And this is where we are going to be going to tonight. Of course, we do have the Losail International Circuit, 5.380 kilometers. That's 3.343 miles, 16 turns, light in weight with DRS detection zones, a mightily long straight as well, with a slight descent coming out from the final corner to then send you down towards turn 1. It's a furiously fast circuit with plenty to offer. There'll be lots of overtaking, folks. From what you've already seen, you ain't seen nothing yet. This track is truly going to boggle the minds of many, and there's only one man who can take us through it. It's the one, the only real OG, Brendan Lee.
Welcome to Qatar for PSGL here tonight. Quite close to Bahrain in location, but worlds apart in the feeling of the track. This is all about high speed, flowing, and confidence to maximize your minimum speed throughout these apexes. Throw in the challenge of track limits around this track as well, and you're in for one hell of a ride, as now you're trying to get the car threaded the needle throughout the high-speed sequences while never going over the white line. Every single corner on this track you can invalidate and get track limit warnings for, so you really have to be on top of your game, and I will not be surprised to see some people get some track limit penalties during the race and invalidate their critical qualifying laps as well. It's all about being patient on the throttle around this track, as it's so easy to over scrub that front left and destroy the tyre wear, especially in a racing circumstance. And now coming to the end of the middle sector, and this is where it becomes so fast in the final sector. Flat through here, and again flat through here. You get a bit of a rest, and again flat through here, just easily threading the car between the track limits and into the final apex of the lap. Down 2 gears, let the car rotate back to the power, and this is a full lap here in Qatar ahead of the race tonight.
Well, the two-time F1 Sim Racing World Champion Brendan Lee taking us around the circuit as he has done so brilliantly this season. Big thank you to Brendan once again for supplying us that track guide. And he's absolutely right, isn't it, Jack? Whilst obviously there's plenty of risk-reward, overtaking opportunities are plenty when it comes to Lusail, there is that danger point where if you tread over the white lines, it's a very penalty-poignant track, put it that way.
It is, and you can expect plenty of, well, we've seen it over the past 2 weeks, you can expect plenty of chicken being played with the DRS around here, which is always, I don't know whether to call it entertaining or an eyebrow raiser in some ways, but again, the drivers make do with what they've got, and we know how powerful the DRS is on this game, so you can expect games to be played when it comes to that as well. So we do, of course, have penalties up from last week. Barry Bormand, he's not going to be taking pole for that reason. He's actually going to be starting with the back of the grid because he has got a qualifying ban, so no pole for Barry this time. But we have been talking, of course, you said the only man who could guide us around here was Brendan Lee. In reality, it was absolutely the only guy who could, because of course he was the winner the last time we came here.
The only time we've actually come here as well. And obviously that's not the only piece of breaking news as well, folks. I'm sure you've all been watching social media. The latest news, the word on the street, Jack Kinnan, Alfie Butcher moving to McLaren. I mean, this is some real heart-stopping news, isn't it? Because obviously he really made an impression in last season's F1 Sim Racing Championship. And now he has a great chance to move in with the likes of Lucas Blakely and the ever-experienced Wilson Hughes as well, who's got a lot of experience for such a young age. A huge signing for the team in Papaya.
It is. It's a great signing. I think you saw how the impact he made early in his career in F1 Sim Racing. So it'll be fantastic to see how he gets on in a new team. Was with RHE and Haas, of course. Now going to jump across to McLaren. So it'll be a different environment for him, but a good chance for him to develop, you would say. But of course now it'll be up to Haas to find a replacement for him as well. So there are big shoes to fill there, you would say.
Yeah, absolutely. This is his tweet that he took from earlier on today. Extremely proud to announce that I've joined the McLaren Shadow F1 Sim Racing team. It's a special moment to be joining such a prestigious team, and I can't wait to work closely with Lucas and Wilson and get started with the rest of the team. Excited for what's to come. And obviously he did really tear the F1 Sim Racing scene a new one after winning at Austria in what was a carefully, methodically put together race alongside you, Lasho Zildrim. It was a pleasure to watch, Jack.
It really was, and it's a testament again to the talent that comes through league racing. That you know, guys in their debut season can go out, take a victory, and control things like that. So, McLaren, very exciting for them to have Lucas Blakely, Wilson Hughes, and now Alfie Butcher in the team. So it'll be an exciting prospect at hand for those guys as well. As we now are, of course, we are in Q1. You're not missing anything, of course. It's just the standard intermediate laps being done around Lusail. So it'll be interesting to see. This will be an interesting one for myself, George. And I didn't do the race last time we were here, so this is all new to me as well.
Yeah, it's a very fast-paced track. Naturally, a lot of mystery on the side of this circuit in itself. We do actually have a couple more drivers we can hear from. Nicholas Longue, someone we haven't spoken about, as Otis Lawrence goes fastest on the intermediate tyres, folks, not representative. So we'll check out and see how Nico is doing.
Hey guys, Nicholas here. I just wanted to share a few thoughts about tonight's race in Qatar. Not particularly one of my strongest tracks. Not a track I particularly enjoy as well. Too much driving. I just find it a bit too many high-speed corners. I mean, obviously in real life there's a lot of adrenaline going, especially when you're going at high speeds like that, especially in Sector 3, for example. But tonight it's going to be very, very crucial with penalties. This track is notorious for the track limits and how easy it is to invalidate a lap in qualifying and in the race to get a penalty. So that'll be priority number one during the race tonight. And obviously DRS, as we all know, this year is extremely, extremely powerful. So that's what the best place to be is obviously anywhere but P1 towards the end of the race. But my thoughts of the season so far, I mean, I haven't really done many races this season. I've been busy away. I had some stuff to do, so I couldn't really take part in it fully and really like try and go for the championship. So I've just been using these races to just kind of like learn and just prepare for the sim racing championship this year, which yeah, we are working 24/7 on. We can't wait to get started. Me and Barry and John and all the team are super we just can't wait to get racing again. That last year felt really good, but we want to make it 2 in a row. So I'll see you guys tonight. Ciao ciao.
So that's Nicholas Longuet, everybody, and a driver, I think, who certainly, he's been around the block, hasn't he, Jack? He's had many teams, but has since found home at the Scuderia Ferrari, and they've just come off the back of winning the team's title, which is generally, I know in Formula One we talk about the Drivers' Championship being the one that every single driver and every team sometimes wants, and obviously it's the one the fans, I think, pay a lot more attention to. But in terms of F1 sim racing, it's quite unique, isn't it? If you're part of the team, it's all about the team's championship. That's where the money is.
It is, and that's the big part of it, is that the money is there. So that's what they were aiming for. And again, coming off the high of that, of course, Longuet probably has had a bit of a, by his standards, probably a disappointing season so far in PSGL. Of course, he had that pole position in Mexico, was leading on the final lap, and then the chaos of DRS chicken happened, and he came out with no points at all. So we'll see what he can do today, style. And I'll be hoping for that. But of course, his teammate is Barry Bormand, who's going to be starting from the back of the grid with a qualifying ban. So he's not going to have the help of his teammate, but maybe he might come back to them later on. We'll see. But you can see there's about 11 and a bit minutes left here in Q1. There hasn't been anything going on out on the circuits. Most drivers are only doing intermediate laps, including Freddie Rasmussen, who's the only car out there at the moment. And the question we have to ask, and we continue to ask it, George, when is Freddie Rasmussen's look going to change?
It is the big bold question, because, like I say, he is the current reigning F1 sim racing champion, and I have to say, if you look at his results in qualifying historically, they are impressive as well. He's taken 8 pole positions throughout the entirety of his time here at PSGL, and also in the process has actually taken 3 this season. So, you know, if you want someone to be on your side for qualifying, Freddie is your man. Unfortunately, things have not gone very well on Freddie's part, because despite nailing down some truly sensational results in the last few races in terms of qualifying, things have just not planned out in the race, and that's exactly what needs to change. He's been involved in incidents. He was not classified back in Mexico, and even prior to that, of course, he finished 17th with the fastest lap, but Belgium finished outside the points at Austria after taking pole. He took pole at Belgium and lost that too, and obviously Saudi Arabia is where he took pole and also finished outside the points in 14th. It's just very unlike the Great Dane.
It is, yeah. Again, we talked about last week, he was, again, pole position and still couldn't convert it into a points-paying position. And Spa, of course, we remember the incident was towards the end of the race on the alternate strategy. Yeah. It got in contact with Barry Bormand. And what we have seen so far in this PSGL season is Freddie Rasmussen and Barry Bormand are coming into contact quite a lot. So I think that could be probably a rivalry you should probably keep your eyes on going into the new esports season.
I think so. I mean, I think there's going to be some serious toing and froing, I think, between the Ferrari and the Red Bull camp. Because it's a statement of intent by Red Bull, isn't it? Signing Jarno Watmere, we still continue to talk about it. I know it's been obviously signed and sealed now for quite some time, but given the fact that Red Bull have been dominant team champions for so long, with Freddie Rasmussen at the head of the team, and then all of a sudden Ferrari then rise above with Barry Bormand and Nicholas Longuet, such an achievement for them to take the championship. But Red Bull are going to be hurting off the back of that, Jack. They're going to be feeling every bit of it. And it kind of makes me believe, because we've heard obviously from Jarno's recollection of in interviews with Traction, for example, where he said the move wasn't really discussed, or the move to Red Bull wasn't discussed, I should say, until the very end of the championship, which leads me to think Red Bull have done this specifically for the team's title.
You would, yeah. I think it's a smart move. You know, you get 2 of the most experienced drivers on the grid alongside each other, because I mean, Ferrari have got that at the moment in the form of Barry Bormand and Nicholas Longuet at the head of the team. So why not sign keep your current F1 Esports champion and take another 2-time champion and put them together in Red Bull, and then you've got a super team, let's say. So that is absolutely, you would imagine, the challenge for that team's championship. But finally, things are happening out on the circuit now. Q1, 8 minutes left on the clock, and Fabrizio Donoso, who actually didn't think was going to be here this evening, is now heading up towards the first corner. Yeah,
heading down towards turn 1 now, and he's going to be looking to try and maximise and give himself something to work with here on this opening lap on soft tyres. He has already registered the time, but it is on the intermediate compound. Now, some of you might be asking, why on earth have they used the intermediates to get things started? Well, it's a good way to test the equipment. Another idea behind it as well is to maybe lay down a delta to work with. Obviously, if you see that delta's in the green or even in purple, it gives you huge amounts of confidence. Fabrizio obviously displaying some of that confidence coming out of the first sector, no question, taking the opening purple sector. That could yet change though, because we are in the early knockings of Q1, despite it being 7 minutes and 30 still to go. But Donoso, who has been around the block for a number of years, knows exactly what it takes to be the best. Of course, was challenging for the F1 Sim Racing title back in 2017 against Brendan Lee, who went on to win it back-to-back. Again, you see the purple second sector light up here for Fabrizio Donoso, who now cruises through the latter sector on this lap. The only car that's in the pits right now is Barry Burman, who is not taking part in qualifying. His teammate, though, will be Nicolas Longue, who we just heard from as well. But around the final bend comes the Chilean. Donoso now up towards the line. DRS now opens up, and it's a 1:20.342 to kick us off, Jack.
Teammate Otis Lawrence slots in right behind. Well, for a moment slotted in behind him, and then it goes to the top of the order, 20.337. Expect times to be very, very close. As you can see, Brendan Lee, 20.36. And you can see there'll be plenty more times to come. But the top three already are within 300ths of a second of each other. Then Danny Beresnay also slots in a 1 minute 20.385 to add to that timed list. A couple more still to finish their laps here. Their first flying laps. Rasmussen's invalidated his lap, so he will not be taking any more. Tom Manley goes to the top one. 20.324. So again, finding gaps where there doesn't seem to be any. Thomas Galwood also managed to slot in there, 29, and we're waiting for a couple more. Fredrik Presteder, 20.474. Ishmael Fassi, first car at the 20.2s, 1 minute 20.269. And we will wait to get the last few across the line here, but you can expect the cut-off times to be very, very tight around here. Even though it's quite a long circuit, 1 minute 20 lap. I mean, you can just have a look from second now as Nicolas Longue slots in there as well. Second down to ninth within 900ths.
Yeah, truly exceptional. Few drivers, though, actually invalidating their runs. Alvaro Carreton, Duncan Hoffman, Thomas Ronard, even Freddie Rasmussen. A lot of the, should we say, a lot of the more experienced talents finding things a little tricky out there in these opening runs. And they can't afford to make these mistakes, Jack, because ironically enough, it is the bottom five. Of course, remember, the bottom five eliminees will be heading out if they don't make it through to the top 15 in Q1. So as it stands, that will be Rasmussen. Burremand, of course, who will not be featuring in Q2. He's already out. So there's only 4 places that will be decided from a live grid that will, of course, be eliminated in qualifying. Carreton being one of them, Hoffman, Ronha. I mean, that's a string of names. I mean, that would be a shocker come the end of the session, Jack.
It would, but maybe it'll take a Q1 exit for Freddie Rasmussen for his luck to turn around a little bit, as ironic as that sounds. But I don't think Duncan, I mean, if you look at Duncan
Opposites
Hoffman...
attract, you mean?
Yeah, possibly, yeah. But if you look, I mean, at Duncan Hoffman, I mean, 19th, I don't think he's going to mind starting from 19th, because if you remember what happened last week, he came from 19th to the podium on the final lap.
Yeah, unbelievable. I would never count out Duncan Hoffland when it comes to racing. He loves an aggressive initial stint. You're going to need one as well if you start right down the bottom. But I would not, by any means, state now that Hoffland will be staying in that bottom 5. He has been utterly sensational. Aston Martin with all 3 of their drivers racing tonight. In fact, if we factor in Donoso, Otis Lawrence once again impressing. I mean, again, we talk about new drivers joining teams as well. You know, Otis Lawrence, you would have factored him in perhaps in many ways, Jack, as a driver that might have been an attractive proposition for a Red Bull or a Mercedes, for example. But he opted for Aston Martin, which is interesting because they're not under the Veloce banner. They're relatively independent, and you do wonder whether that was, clever thinking on part of Otis Lawrence.
Yeah, I could. I'd love to get an insight into what his thinking was there. But again, because they're independent, like you say, it's maybe a bit more freedom within the team to do what you want in a way. So it could be a fantastic move for him. It's worked so far. I mean, if we think back to Spa, I mean, he on his debut race with the team, he'd literally been announced a couple of hours previously, and he went out and won the race. As Ismail Fassi now retires, and you would imagine he's going to be absolutely safe, as Otis Lawrence also retires as well. So Ismail Fassi was the only driver to dip under the 1 minute 20.3 mark. So this is going to be very, very close. I mean, you look from Nicolas Longue down to the cutoff, which is 20.527 Ruben Pedreño. It's only about 0.2 of a second, but it's that sort of danger territory of your sort of 20.4s down are going to be in a lot of trouble. But it'll be interesting to see who decides to come out again. I'd imagine everybody from sorts of Brendan Lee down possibly will probably decide to go again.
Yeah, well, Benham hasn't decided to retire just yet. He's still lingering in the pit box, but I think he's going to be making his way out back onto the track. Danny Berejnay in our regular scheduled featured programming, I suppose. He always comes out first, generally towards the end of a session, and now once again that trend continues here at Losail and takes the rest of the grid that have decided to remain in the session around the track for what you would fathom being the final runs here in Q1. And Danny Berejnay, who must say, talking about driver moves again, obviously remaining at Mercedes, but one of his closest friends from his home country in Hungary, obviously recently signing with Mercedes, Jack, Istvan Pukki.
Yeah, it was a fantastic interview. We talked to him after the race a couple of weeks ago, where he said it was very special for him to have his good friend alongside him at Mercedes, both Hungarian as well. So there's already a good team dynamic there, which will be fantastic for them to go forward, which is probably, again, another factor. But of course, we know how quick Istvan is and how consistent he's been. So it'll be interesting to see how that team dynamic plays out, as Berejnay will then get us underway for the last runs of Q1. So everybody from 7th down is back out on the circuit for another lap. And this is going to be a bit of an interesting session now, because this is minor improvements could rocket you for about 5 or 6 positions here. So it's kind of pressure on here.
Yeah, pressure on indeed. Danny Berejnay now looking to persevere. Obviously currently sat in the top 10, so no fears of being eliminated as it stands, but things can change rather quickly, especially when it comes to qualifying. His fellow countryman Istvan Pukki is following him in behind as well, so it's going to be the two Hungarians to take us through to the last-ditch moments here in Q1. 36 seconds left on the clock, and Berejnay now rounding the next right-hander. He's got quite the spaghetti layout of circuit in front of him here. Now taking another aggressive left-hander and then pointing the car upwards as he looks to take the one of the highest points out on the track. Of course, later they will do. Oh, wow, yeah, that's not going to help. Now, the big question is, can he stay in, Jack?
Either that or he's been told to back off, because maybe they're watching, as engineers will be watching and seeing, are there any major improvements? But we'll wait and see. But the next car then, apart from him, will be, as we cycle through, it'll be Istvan Pukki, who's half a tenth up actually. So he's going to be in and around his teammates' territory unless he finds a big improvement in the final sector. Here comes Istvan Pukki, goes to second, 20.294. So here come the improvements. Joni Tormola doesn't improve on his time there. Philip Preschnader does, though, pops up to 8th place for him, as this is a good effort then from him so far. As we see, Rasmussen finds the time, 20.31. Josh Ito finds some time. Thomas Gall next across the line. He goes second fastest. Now it's danger time for him. Jana Opmeer goes quickest so far. Is there going to be any improvements? Caraton makes it through. Is there going to be now a shock exit for Danny Berejnay? Because all of Duncan Hofland and Thomas Ronar, who could eliminate him from qualifying here. Hofland in the final corner. There it goes. Berejnay is going to exit in Q1. There's the big shock. Here comes Duncan Hofland across the line now. He improves as well. What about Ronar with the broken seat, who we weren't expecting, of course, to even be racing today. But here he comes through the final corner. Is it going to be enough to exit into Q2? It is. It's actually the fastest time, I think, across the line there for Thomas Ronar. So, wow, Danny Berejnay just backed off on his lap, wasn't happy with it, and he exits in Q1. So that's like the last thing that they needed. They need to start, again, scoring points on Jarno, but now again, it all goes wrong in Q1. But of course, we know pole position is not everything, as it has been this season. But that's a mountain of work now for Brendan Lee and for Danny Berenstein to do from the back of the grid there. But it's been done. Duncan Hoffland did it last week to a podium, so let's not count anything out. But I mean, we've seen a shock already, but let's see what Q2 is going to give us.
Yeah, Q2 could give us anything. I'll tell you one team that did do well, though. 3 Aston Martin drivers have now made it through to Q2, so looking very strong, and we can hear from Fabrizio Donoso.
Hello everyone, Fab here. Hope you guys are doing well. Just a heads up on the season and tonight's race in Qatar. Pretty difficult track to get a lap in with the track limits and the flow of the track. Pretty high speed all round, especially that last sector where you have to use a lot of the track to make the lap time. So it's definitely an interesting qualifying session where I think the gaps are going to be pretty close, especially at the stage of the game where a lot of people are close together, as we could have seen in the previous races. So yeah, hopefully Qatar is not so much of a mess towards the end of the race, as we've seen in the previous races so far, where you tend to play these DRS games. So I think Qatar should be fine towards that, but we never know. We haven't driven it since the beginning of the game, where the gaps were maybe a little bit more than what they are now. So yeah, we'll see tonight. Hopefully we make a good strat, and we're confident we have good setups with the team. So I think Otis is racing as well as Duncan. So we have the 2 cars with an extra from another team, but that doesn't really matter here in PSGL. So yeah, we'll see what we can do tonight. The season's been going pretty well in terms of results on my side and the team. I'm maybe lacking to focus through the whole race, because I've been doing some mistakes here and there that cost me quite a few positions at the end, especially some podiums that I can think of. So yeah, hopefully everything goes to plan tonight, and yeah, we'll see you guys later. Bye.
So there we are, Fabrizio Donoso just giving us some insights into how his season has gone so far and looking ahead to Qatar as well. Of course, he has had his troubles over the years, but has carried so much experience and is now back here once again, and this time in Q2. And they are fully underway here, Jack, but it's all on Donoso to try and get into Q3 this time.
It is, yeah, but again, like we said, all the Aston Martins are through to Q2, which is, again, a great performance so far. Let's see if they can carry that forward. Every car is out on the circuit except for Tom Manley. He's decided, nah, mate, I'm going to stay in and watch everybody else. Of course, there's no fear of getting impeded or colliding with another car, because of course the drivers have opted to turn off the collisions to avoid the effect of slipstream, which is incredibly powerful, so it keeps it an even playing field. 20 points now. These are all used tyre runs, let's not forget, as they come across the line. Remember, the fastest times were in the 20.2s in the first parts of qualifying. As you can see, all of these times come in now. Those are the first runs over here in Q2, so nothing too surprising, but and we will see now. Tom Manley's decided not to do anything, so he's going to stay in for now. So 20.5, the quickest time on the use, so still yet to kick off really in Q2.
Yeah, and it's currently being held by Istvan Pukki as well. We just alluded to obviously being the newest recruit, or one of the newest recruits at Mercedes so far. Came off the back of a decent run last time out, finishing second at Austria, which was a good grand feat for him. Obviously, his unfortunately did not finish back at Belgium, which is a track that he has had success with in the past. But the one thing that can be said about Losail, Jack, you can rip up all the trends, I think, from previous tracks, because there is no track really like Losail as such. But Pukki flexing those muscles and clear at the moment by nearly a whole tenth of a second.
Yeah, absolutely. On the used tyres, of course. Quickest time in Q1 was a 20.2, which was set by Thomas Ronnar. So he'll be looking to try and steal pole position, because, well, we all thought he was going to take it last week, and it was pipped by Freddie Rasmussen, of course. But ultimately, it nearly almost worked out better for him compared to Freddie Rasmussen, who didn't finish in the points at all. But of course, we'll wait and see how the race goes, of course, because it all turned on its head last week. Jarno Watmir taking the victory there in Austria once again. So kept the trend going stats-wise for Austria as well, because I'd say it is incredible when you think about it. With all the times we've been to Austria, and only we've only had with sheer domination by basically 2 drivers in the form of Jarno Watmir and Barry Boermand.
Yeah, it's truly been a sensational season, and obviously Jarno breaking the trend of only there being 1 win for near enough every driver that has taken a win so far this campaign. No one did more than 1 until Jarno came across the line, making it number 2, and that's his 4th podium this season. Incredible stats on part of Jarno Watmir, currently untouched up at the top. If you look at historical wins across the championship since, of course, when we first got underway in season 27, all the way back in what was, I think it was 2021, Jack, when we got underway in PSGL PCF1. And since then, 24 wins, 45 podiums, but only 7 poles. And that, again, rubber stamps, that qualifying isn't really the Flying Dutchman's strong suit.
No, but it also proves that qualifying isn't everything. It's about how you perform in the race. So that, I think that's a really good stat to sort of prove that. With just the 7 pole positions, but still 25 or 24 victories.
It'll be 25 if he wins tonight.
It would be 25 if he wins tonight, yeah, of course. And so, of course, the 2 most successful drivers are Jarno Watmir and Barry Boermand in PSGL history, of course. So they'll be looking to keep that statistic going forward. But as you said, we had 6 different winners in a row in the opening 6 rounds. Jarno becoming the first driver to win twice this season. So we can still carry forward a stat of different winners. They just won't be in a row, per se. So we could still get a 7th different winner this season. Let's see if we can do that. So plenty of drivers that haven't taken a victory this season so far. Namely Brendan Lee, but he's going to have a mountain of work to do now.
Yeah, he certainly will. Obviously needs to try and lift himself off the bottom, and I must say strategy can kind of go out the window around a track like this, especially when it's fast and furious. Tom Manley just making his way around on his out lap, despite it flashing red in the bottom right of your screen, folks. Obviously that usually means it's invalidated, but this is only the out lap, doesn't have a lot to worry himself over on this occasion. Obviously it would be a concern if he invalidated close to the end of the out lap, because then that may factor in to him not being able to run a Silverstone. The Earl Grey of World Motorsport gave us a clinic of sorts, and it was truly a unique race as well, Jack, where strategy was a huge factor, because some drivers opted to box for fresh wet tyres or fresh intermediate tyres. Manley decided to go for, he did make the change. Some drivers though opted to not change at all.
Yeah, and we had the interesting moment at the start of the race where it was in between wet and intermediate conditions, and those who started on the wets obviously suffered. But Manley made the switch to fresh intermediate tyres later on in the or kind of early compared to everyone else, and sided his way through the field and made a couple of last-ditch overtakes to take a victory there. It was incredible. I think he started 13th on the grid or something around there. So it was an incredible way to take a victory there, and carries forward, of course, that we've had basically only British winners in Silverstone so far this during PSGL across the seasons. He's about to finish his lap around Losail as he comes around the final corner now, and gets on the throttle, making sure not to invalidate. And you'll see them going all the way over to the left-hand side, keeping 1 tyre on the paint. And that's an excellent lap from Tom Manley, the first driver to go into the 1:20.1s, beaten immediately, though, by Otis Lawrence.
Yeah, Otis Lawrence now going to the top. Fastest time we've seen, 1:20.105. Philip Prejnader currently 3rd fastest, so he just ventured on to his first fast run. Ishmael Fassi, though, going into 2nd place. And we're going to be waiting now for the rest of the cars to make their way around. Ron Hart has invalidated again. That's certainly not ideal. Remember, he invalidated his first run in Q1 and then went fastest in the end of Q2. He'll be hoping at the end of Q1, sorry. He'll be hoping the lightning strikes twice. And Nicholas Longuet now going out on his fastest run as well. It looks like the Ron Hart was on his out lap anyway, so I don't think it was too much of a major concern. But obviously won't want it to happen on this current fast run. Is Van Pookie, though, across the line, purple in that final sector, and 2nd fastest, and approximately 32 thousandths between he and Otis. Fine margins, Jack.
It is no, Ronar and Longuet both invalidated their runs. They're going to have to go again. Ronar is not pushing on this lap. I can't tell you that lap was, the one that he did would have been popped him in 4th place, I think, with that lap. So you can see Otis Lawrence quickest, is Van Pookie. Jarno Watmir slotting himself in there in 3rd place, 20.144. So currently the cut-off time currently sitting with Philip Preschnader on 20.292, but of course we had invalidations for Ronar, for Longe, and for Thomas Gall as well, who we know has the capability to get into Q3 as well. Josh Ito didn't really set a representative time there on the 20.738 in his Alpine. Be able to see, we'll have to wait and see if we can see a Q3 for Josh Ito, which I don't think we've seen this season. So let's see if we can get an improved performance from Alpine today.
Yeah, you never know. Obviously, they've currently got themselves into a good window with Josh Ito. Obviously, he's just on the cusp of breaking into that top 10. And obviously, they've signed Joni Tormala as well to the team, who was, kind of broken his own trend by no longer being part of the Red Bull family. Of course, was teammates with Freddie Rasmussen all those years ago, would go on to clinch a team's title of his own, and then after that would join the now known as RB team, of course prior known as AlphaTauri and Toro Rosso. In comes Istvan Pukki after concluding his P2 lap, and currently sat ahead of Jarno Opmeer, the driver who was sat in his very seat prior to him joining the team, and prior to, of course, Jarno leaving Mercedes as well. Very busy pit lane down there at this moment. 3 minutes and 37 to go. And still, it's Otis Lawrence in control and in charge. But bear in mind, we do still have the final runs to come, and they will be on fresh rubber as well, Jack.
They will, yeah, absolutely. I'd imagine either Josh Ito made a mistake on his lap, or those were a used set that he's just set that on there, or invalidated his run. We didn't actually check that. But yeah, this is going to be fast and frantic towards the end of this, with especially with guys like Ronhar, Longe, Pedreño as well, and Thomas Gall currently in the drop zone. It's going to be very, very tight as we see. So the cutoff time 20.292. Duncan Hoffland on 20.2. Then you've got everyone from Otis Lawrence down to Freddie Rasmussen all on 20.1s. So that's less than a tenth of a second. So there's about just over a tenth of a second covering being in 10th and being at the top of the leaderboards currently. So it's going to be fast and frantic. And Philip Preschnader is coming down the pit lane. He's the only car coming out of the pit lane there, as we just see. Well, Thomas Gall now coming out as well. But Philip Preschnader, we're looking to get through to Q3. Would be a good performance for Philip if he can get through to Q3 here in his, I think he's in representing McLaren today, of course, filling in for the missing Lucas Blakely / Wilson Hughes. But we'll be waiting to see if he can reproduce some of his form from 2021 when he was with Ferrari. We think back to when he was a title contender in season 27, and he took that famous victory in Spa, currently his only victory in PSGL, so it's a long winless drought for Philip Preschnader. 3 years almost since we last saw him at the top.
Yeah, I remember that Spa race very well. It was quite the feat for Philip Preschnader and the Slovak, who obviously, like you said, Jack, obviously went to Ferrari. There was a lot of promise there. Things didn't quite work out the way he probably envisaged as Jarno Opmeer now retires from the session, but it's always good to see him back and still fighting it out with the very best of them here in Q2. And I tell you what, he's in the top 10 right now. Appreciate, obviously, those first runs were done on the used rubber. Obviously, that hasn't necessarily quelled the fears, though, of Pukki and Opmeer. They're going to continue and retire from the session. So Otis Lawrence, it might only be a matter of time before he retires, though he has decided to go out on an outlap. So we will wait and see as Preschnader now rounds the final corner and looks to get set to race around the Losail circuit in a bid to make it through to Q3. And for the pole shootout, you never know what a story that would be. Now making his way in towards turn 1, flying through in the papaya livery, as he now looks to head through this next left-hander, stepping in for Lucas Blakely, who now once again is committing to his GB4 season as well, Jack. There was a lot of, should we say, worry that he wasn't going to find the funding, but he ultimately did, and he's had a good year as well.
Certainly has. I think it would have been a bit of a letdown had he not secured that funding for GB4s. We wish him all the best, Lucas Blakely, playing a blinder in GB4 out there as well. So again, I think he's got decent boots to fill his seats here this evening, so I don't think he's going to mind too much. But we'll see as Philip Preschnader, he's currently 300ths up in the first sector, which would be, again, even that tiny improvement would mean quite a lot at the end of this lap if he keeps this current form going. Sector 2, half a tenth up actually. This is good effort from Philip Preschneider so far as he comes now into sector number 3. A really fast flowing section. The back end just stepping out slightly through one of those high speed corners now up towards the final corner. If he can keep this up, this would bring him in around 7th or 8th fastest if he keeps this current form going all the way out of the curb and invalidates it right there. So that's not going to be enough for Philip Preschneider. It was a 20.318 anyway, so it was slower, but that wide moment has just cost him.
Yeah, thinking how's Tamas Gal's going to be up next as well as he sprints out of the final bend, opens up the DRS, looking to register his first time, and it's not a bad time at all, second fastest, but Freddie Rasmussen once again on top here, again showing, flexing that quali pace. Nicholas Longue going into 4th quickest, as well as Ishmael Fassi up to 2nd, ahead of Otis Lawrence as well. Ido is out, as is Philip Preschneider. Fabrizio Donoso is invalidated as well, so that's yet another place gone, as Thomas Ronhaar also looks to come around as well. Ruben Pedreño, a sensational lap, 120.075. The top 3 all within, and should I say top 4 all within a tenth of a second, as Ronhaar now goes quickest. The first 119 of the session. We haven't seen it from anybody else. The Dutchman, fastest in quali for a second qualifying session running.
I mean, he likes to leave
Out of the session, folks. So already a few additional shocks that have now left us, but certainly it's going to be a furious fight for the top 10 places. Remember, of course, poll on the line. This is going to be the poll shootout. We want to hear from you in the live chat as well, folks. Get involved. Let us know who you think the fastest driver is going to be. Pookie, Manley, Rasmussen, Otmir, Ronhart, Longue, Lawrence, Fassi, Pedreño, and Gal, all in this session. And I must say, it's a mouth-watering one, Jack.
It's so mouth-watering, you can't even say mouth-watering.
Can't even say it. Can't even say it. No, it's too watery, Jack.
Yeah, there you go. So, but you can see as well, good effort from the Williams. Ishmael Fassi and Ruben Pedreño now through into the last part of qualifying. Good effort from them as well. So we've got an interesting lineup, of course. Isfan Pookie through to Q3. Teammate Danny Beresnay exited in Q1, of course. Nicholas Longue, the sole Ferrari in Q3. Barry Borman serving a qualifying ban. He's starting last. And Otis Lawrence, the only Aston Martin to actually make it through in the end to Q3. So he's now in. And but we've got both the Red Bulls once again through to Q3. Freddie Rasmussen and Jarno Otmir, Tom Manley, and of course Thomas Gal with another great effort. That's a consistent run of Q3 appearances for Thomas Gal, so a really good effort for him. But will be very interesting shootout for pole. Otis Lawrence, Thomas Ronhart, Rasmussen, they're all really close to one another. So, but we've seen the first 1 minute 19s, so you'd imagine that there's more pace in hand for some other guys behind.
And you'd imagine as well that pace is going to heat up heading into Q3, because obviously the track will get a little warmer, you'd fathom, and naturally the drivers will be able to put out their best laps. Ishmael Fassi has gone alone, though. There's no one else going out early aside from Ishmael Fassi. Let's read out some of your comments as well. George, you rejoiced too early. I rejoice right on time. Tom Manley, P1, says via Shah. We've got... if Ronhart doesn't invalidate, then him. If not, Otis, says Phoenix Silver. And I would say you're not too far wrong with those two names. I'm saying Longue on pole. What else are we seeing? George Morgan, P2, Jack DNF. Sounds about right. Frisian dude saying,
why
come on,
DNF?
Don't know. Ask via Shah. I mean, there's nothing to do with me, Jack. Ronhart will get pole but mess up in the race, says Two Stone. We've got An1 Pro saying, where's Jake B? I can tell you that Jake B has actually been eliminated in Q2, so he will not be featuring in the shootout. Jarno Cookmere says Alfie loves F1. Jarno as well says Gabby Boy. Keep your comments coming in, folks. But Fassi opting to come straight back in. So whether that was just an installation lap, Jack, obviously just trying to get a feel of the track ahead of Q3.
Yeah, I'd imagine that was just a used set of softs to go out and just make sure everything was correct. But yes, if you're wondering where Jake Benham is, he exited in P11, setting the exact same time as his former teammate Jarno Otmir. But because Jarno Otmir set the time before he did, Otmir, of course, goes through, and Jake Benham does not. So the gap was 0.000 of a second, exactly the same time. But Jake Benham will start P11. Jarno Otmir now in the shootout for pole position. So some shock exit there. Jake Benham Fabrizio Donoso as well, not making it through into the next part of qualifying as well. So there's been a lot of shocks. Brendan Lee, of course, out in Q1 as well. So big names that'll be coming from kind of towards the back of the grid. And I think this is going to be an exciting one to look at, George. We've got the title contenders, of course, down the back of the grid, the current champions leader at the front of the grid. But we know so far this season, pole position has been an absolute curse because nobody who has started on pole position has A, won a race, B, finished on the podium, or C, finished in the top 5.
Well, I'm pleased to report, Jack, that there is a Jack for pole in the chat, so that is something. We've got Ron Haar or Tom Manley, says Mr. Claus, Mr. Klaus, even. I think that is. Not Mr. Claus, because it's not Christmas yet, so don't get too excited, everybody at home. We've got Tom Manley says Broken Britain. We've got Jarno Pole. We've also got further down all this for everyone's DNF and George to win. I agree with you, Veer Shah. Again, rubber stamping that opinion. Jarno passes a kidney stone, says TV. Let's hope not live on the broadcast here tonight. Fingers crossed. That'll make for a very interesting post-race interview, Jack, I think. But yeah, Ron Haar says Gianluigi Donnarumma. Great to see Donnarumma in the chat as well.
Go on, Donnarumma.
Any thoughts on the kidney stone, Jack?
I mean, I think that would be be immortalized forever if that ever did happen. But no, I have zero thoughts on the kidney stone, nor do I even want to think about it, to be quite honest with you. It hurts just thinking about it.
Yeah, it does actually. Yeah, so no more on the kidney stone. Tamas Gal now breaking away out of the final corner, now through towards turn 1. Let's see what he can do. 7 minutes to go here of the realm in qualifying. Thomas Ron Haar not far behind either. Now, obviously these drivers have to be very wary not to overextend. They'll want to make sure that they get at least a banker in, just so they have something to measure against when we have the final runs coming through later on, as we now watch Tamas Gal fly through turn 4 and turn 5. Was a sensation as well in his own right. He's actually also taken a pole in the past. If you remember, Jack, he did it at Canada not too long ago.
He did indeed. So we know he's got pedigree to take pole positions here. So let's see what Tamas Gal can come out with here as he comes now through sector 2, winding his way through this really twisty section. But that's going to be an invalidation. So that's going to be his banker is now over and done with. So now he's going to have to come back in and go again.
Yeah, not ideal for Tamas Gal. Thomas Ron Haar is going to be next, and he's invalidated his run as well. So already the driver's really struggling with track limits. Ismail Fassi's okay right now, as is Ruben Pedreño. Tom Manley also making his way around the track, and incidentally, as you would expect, fastest on his lap so far. It'd be very interesting to see what his first run goes to show here in our second appearance here at Qatar, here in PSGL PCF1, as we now watch Tom Manley come around the final corner at turn 16. Open up the DRS again this time around and sets the 120.040, not quite the 119 we saw from Thomas Ron Haar, or indeed Otis Lawrence right at the very depth in our previous qualifying session. Otis, though, not setting a time, indeed following in the footsteps of many others that were unable to set their first laps. Ismail Fassi, though, breaks into the 119s, and Longue splits the difference. So 120.022 to go, 18 thousandths faster than Tom Manley.
Yeah, Ismail Fassi, that's the fastest time we've seen so far. Rasmussen had invalidated his run, as did Istvan Pukki, did a 19.95. That would have been good for second fastest. So lots of invalidations. So everybody from fourth down invalidated their times. So that's the pressure they're under now. But Ismail Fassi, provisional pole for the Williams driver on a 1 minute 19.920, a whole tenth of a second clear of Nicolas Longue at the moment. So this will be an interesting one to watch, but it's going to be frantic last runs here, because they've all basically put it down to one single run at the end. But all of them pushing a little bit too hard on their individual runs, all invalidating except the four in front of them of Jarno Motmir, Tom Manley, Nicolas Longue and Ismail Fassi. So that'll be a bit of comfort for Ismail Fassi now. He knows he's got a really good banker lap on the board, so any improvement for that, I mean, he's a real good shout for pole today, you'd imagine.
Yeah, of course, another driver that's actually broken through out to the F1 Sim Racing Championship, much like Alfie Butcher did in his very first season, went on to pull up some incredible podiums, and I think more importantly, I think it was that race at Saudi Arabia that really set the world alight as far as he was concerned, and now once again showing his great pace, a whole tenth of a second plus, just over a tenth faster than Nicholas Longuet, which is quite the statement, and also ushering in the only 119 that we have seen so far, and right at the beginning of Q3, which I think the confidence that will be on offer here for Fassi, given the fact that he probably knows that there's more to find here in the closing stages, Jack.
Yeah, this is what we're talking about with the delta. So his delta is now going to be a 1 minute 19.920. So anything, again, if he's seeing green on that, he knows it's going to be a really good lap. He can afford to push a bit harder now on this next lap. The rest of them will be thinking now. I mean, again, we know pole position isn't everything, but they're not going to have that delta to drive through. They're not going to know really how well they're stacking up compared to others, but again, they're very experienced, so you'd imagine they will absolutely know. 3 minutes left on the clock then. Ismail Fassi on provisional pole, Nicholas Longuet on the front row, Tom Manley and Jarno Watmere sharing the second row of the grid. Of course, Jarno's championship rivals are all basically starting outside of the top 15. You've got Brendan Lee and Danny Beresnay down in 16th and 17th respectively. Barry Bormand, of course, Nicholas Longuet's teammate, is starting from last, serving a qualifying ban. So there's plenty to keep our eyes on here. So, I mean, it's anybody's guess for pole position, because right at the end last week, of course, it was Rasmussen who pipped Ronnar to pole position, but we do know Thomas Ronnar has an ability to go out he will be the last car, we know that, to come out of the pit lane here, but he has an ability to deliver a lap right at the very death.
So does Otis Lawrence. We saw that at the end of
yeah,
we saw that in Q2 as well, because we all thought that it was Ron Haas at the end of Q2, and he went back to back in Q1, Q2 sessions, but not this time. But as we now watch the cars make their way out, there is the Flying Dutchman championship leader, Jarno Watmere. 71 points against his name, will hold on to the championship lead despite whatever happens here tonight. It doesn't matter how many points Brendan Lee accrues, it'll still be the Flying Dutchman coming home with P1 in the title race for now. But of course, a lot can change through the course of a campaign. At the end of the day, if Brendan puts in a good result, he's going to need a hell of a race today to make that happen. Obviously, considering that he was knocked out in Q1, but never say never. We've seen truly some exceptional moments already in the past, which could lead to a slight twist in the tail. I think what will cause a slight twist in the tail, Jack, is the fact that we've only got 4 registered opening lap times here on the board. So it's very much a lottery draw as to who's going to take pole. Let us know in the live chat again. Folks, want to hear from you. Get involved. Let us know who your pole sitter's going to be. And we will, of course, read them out. Jack, what do you make of it?
Oh, I actually don't know. The problem is with these with all those invalidations, you kind of have no idea what that's going to be. But I'm gonna go with Otis Lawrence, I think, is my tip.
Otis Lawrence to the tip for Jack Canan. Let's see whether he can do the business. Tamas Gal, though, will be the first car to make his way across the line. Cannot afford to invalidate this final run in the pursuit for pole position. Tamas Gal, who has done it once before, all the way back at Montreal, Canada, in our previous season of PSGL PCF1 action, announcing his arrival on the scene, part of the R8G squadron as well. No question, we're going to be seeing him on the grid, I'm sure, very soon, as he now bursts through the first sector. Obviously, there's going to be a seat at Haas available now, with Alfie Butcher now departing. And you do have to wonder whether Gal, I must say, he's using very Haas colours here tonight, Jack.
He certainly is. So he'll be trying to stake his claim to that seat. He would absolutely be certain of that at the very least. So Thomas Gal trying to stake his claim to the Haas seat, but wants to stake his claim to pole position around Lusail as he now comes round. Sector number 2, his opening sector was good, so we'll see if he can continue that form going through. Of course, he has no delta to drive through, and he now will be keeping in the back of his mind the invalidation that came before as well, as he now comes through sector 2 and up into the final sector. Of course, a really fast flowing sector, but it can be very easy to just have a tiny lapse of concentration and invalidate your time here as he comes through the left and now up towards the final corner. We've seen drivers invalidate right at the last possible moment here into the final corner. It's been a tidy lap from Thomas Gall so far. Now heading up towards the start-finish line. Can he do what he did in Montreal? Crosses the line, not quite. It's second for now as he crosses the start-finish line, but it won't be Otis Lawrence on pole, George. He's now invalidated.
Yeah, no, he will not be. But Freddie Rasmussen goes fastest in the immediate. Here comes his teammate Jarno Opmeer, who blasts past him in a 19.817. Not known for his quali pace, but that's not bad for the Flying Dutchman. Here comes Nicolas Longue for the Ferrari, all dressed in red. Fourth fastest for him is Van Pookie, goes up to third fastest. We've now got as well Otis Lawrence coming out towards the line. He, of course, invalidating Ismail Fassi. Fourth quickest. Here comes Thomas Ronha. He's gone fastest in sessions prior. He doesn't go faster this time because he invalidates Tom Manley up to sixth. We now have as well Ruben Pedreño, who moves up to fourth. But Jarno Opmeer laying claim to his first pole position of the season, and what a time to get it, with Brendan Lee eliminated in Q1, Jack.
Timely as always from Jarno Opmeer. Only his 8th pole position in his PSGL career, but a timely one nonetheless, with his championship rivals all the way down in 16th and 17th, and a Red Bull 1 and 2. How about that? Jarno Opmeer and Freddie Rasmussen, for the very first time, are going to share the front row of the grid. What I can tell you, of course, we did say Thomas Ronnar, he invalidated in the final corner, but that lap was good enough.
Way to see it. We will be right back to analyse all of that after this break. Well, there we go. I mean, you know, we've been in this job, Jack, quite a few times, but I think there's one thing for sure, you know, things still surprise you, I think, from time to time. And obviously, Jarno, who we probably shouldn't be surprised in many ways that he has this raw ability to be faster than anyone else on a circuit, given the fact that he's won numerous championships, in fact, chasing his 6th PSGL PCF1 title, but his 7th overall PSGL title. You know, we very rarely see him on pole, and that being his 8th overall is quite the statement, and his first this season. And we could yet see, as you so rightly say, our first pole to victory driver, which we're yet to see this season.
Yeah, a pole to podium, actually. If we get him on a podium,
make it worse.
Or even in the top 5. We haven't seen that yet. Yeah. It is, as you say, it shouldn't be surprising to see Jarno Opmeer on pole, but it is in a way, because we know we've seen the struggles that he's admitted to over the past game cycle or two with qualifying pace, but he certainly still has it around circuits like this. So he'll be delighted, I'm sure, with getting that pole position, a big confidence boost, and so timely as well with capitalizing on his championship rivals who have exited in Q1. The absolute best thing he could do was stick it on pole position, because he could very well come out of this race with a 36-point lead in the championship, which would be massive.
It'd be huge, and I tell you what, it's looking ever more likely, especially with Brendan being eliminated in Q1. I mean, that's going to disappoint Brendan Lee, is it not? I mean, he went close in season 34, Jack, missed out on the title by 2 points at the very end of the series. Statistically was very strong. I mean, if you look back at the numbers as well, from all the way back in season 34, I mean, Brendan carried the most wins. One of the drivers to carry the most wins. Jarno actually only took 1 win that season on the run to becoming champion. But it was all about the podiums, I think, as well, on part of the Flying Dutchman, because he took 6 ahead of Brendan Lee's 5, with Brendan also securing a pole position that season. Brendan would have felt ever so slightly robbed off the back of season 34, and it looks like it's slipping through his fingers again, Jack.
It's probably a frustrating scenario for him, but he'll know that it came undone for the pole sitter last time, and that was Freddie Rasmussen, of course. But we haven't talked about Rasmussen because we're so used to seeing him up there. I mean, he's qualified on pole last week, already held pole position before that, is now on the front row alongside his teammate. Now he's not on pole. he's now second. Is this now the time that Rasmussen finally gets some luck on his side? But it's probably ideal for them as well, because I mean, you've got the Red Bulls at the front. The two of them, we know how well they work together already. We've seen that, but it'll be interesting to see, because we've also got Istvan Pukki and Ruben Pedreño, who are not involved in the title fight at all. They just want to win.
Absolutely. I mean, the thing is, you've got young pretenders here to the throne, Jack. We look at the likes of Tamas Gal, for example, who is a very talented driver. We just witnessed as well, obviously, recently the PSGL PCF2 Championship decided. Obviously, Julian Klaffenbach winning that one, and of course another driver that's with the RHE squadron. Again, another driver, no doubt, that we will see in the near future. But when you look at guys like, Ruben Pedreño has just joined Williams. He, of course, looking to prove himself as well. Joni Tormela moving to Alpine. Appreciate, obviously, he's an old head, but under a new banner, he's going to be looking to make an impression, ready to stake his claim for a seat, especially when you've got Josh Edo alongside you as well, who's also, I would say, still in the very early stages of his career. And you've got Tom Manley, Duncan Hoffland with his first full-time seat. There's a lot of hungry guys out there.
There is. I mean, we mentioned Williams there. You've got they've got an all-Spanish lineup, of course, with Ismael Fassi, Ruben Pedreño, and Alvaro Carreton. But it probably is interesting to note that Carreton was exited in Q1, and the two young guys have qualified 4th and 5th. So it's interesting to watch. But it's not all about qualifying, because we know Alvaro Carreton, he's won before here at PSGL a couple of times. So we know what he's capable of from positions like that. So it'll be interesting to see. You've got the young guys kind of starting up towards the front. Of course, we are including a few others there. But you've got the experienced guys, Jarno Watmir and Freddie Rasmussen on the front. You've got a bunch of sort of young guys there in Q3. And then you've got a load of old heads, let's call them, starting 16th, 17th, 18th down at the back of the grid. So that's going to be all about seeing how they use their experience to good effect. Danny Veresne, Brendan Lee, Alvaro Carreton. Interesting to watch how they deal with this.
Yeah, absolutely right as well. I mean, and again, another flex for Red Bull as well, Jack, having Rasmussen on the front row. I mean, this is their chance to control the pace, right?
It is as well, and it's consistent qualifying performance by Freddie Rasmussen. He qualified on pole last week. He's second on the grid this week, but again, the races, he needs some luck to go his way this time, because it hasn't gone well at all in any of the races so far. He's been, I mean, it's quite shocking that despite all of the performances from Freddie Rasmussen in qualifying, he still hasn't even stood on the podium.
No. That's truly unreal. I mean, when you look at the stats as well, I mean, he's taken a fastest lap. He's 3 times on pole this campaign, and this is yet another front row visit as well for him. But then, of course, you look at the all-time stats. He's only ever had, and this will blow your mind, only 2 victories in the history of PSGL. I mean, that in itself is mind-blowing. And only 8 podiums, which I have to say, that's the same amount that Jarno has had in fastest laps. So, I mean, I find that truly unbelievable. And, I mean, we got some other guys that have come through. I mean, we look at Barry Burman, who didn't take part in qualifying. Of course, he's got one of the best qualifying records on record. Only 14 wins against his name, but it's still, 14 is still better than many. If you look at Otmir and Burman, they're the only 2 drivers that are in double digits for race wins in PSGL history.
Yeah, and they were the when you think back to season 27, they were teammates when that started as well. So they were very successful. But when the 2 of them were at Alfa Romeo, of course, that time.
The first dominant pairing, really.
The first, yeah, they were. But yeah, when you think of that, there's a lot of pedigree on the grid. But it's quite shocking that there's nobody else that has come that close yet. So we'll see what happens now going into the next couple of races or so. But Jarno Watmir now has a chance to make it his 25th victory in PSGL as well. And it's amazing. It's now a big sandwich with Jarno Watmir starting in pole and Barry starting last. So we'll see how this is going to end.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting, and obviously there's many other drivers that we got to factor in. Ruben Pedreño, fantastic result on part of him, Jack, again, like we said, hungry young guys looking to stake their claim. But Brendan's going to have to look into his strategy book, I think, and try and dig something up here. Again, though, strategy, very difficult to pull out in Losail. I would say if there's one driver who's really, I think, who's going to really make an impression, I think it's going to be Duncan Hoffland in this opening stint.
Yeah, you think, I mean, he's going to take a lot of confidence from the previous week, where he came from last row of the grid to a podium, taking 3rd. And that wasn't due to anything other than infighting up the top that dragged him into it as well. It wasn't like there was a safety car intervention, because there is no safety car. It's not enabled for us as well. So yeah, it's kind of an open book really with the way the slipstream has been in the DRS. You know, the straight's really long here at Lausanne, so there's going to be a lot of DRS chicken being played here. But we saw it being played to perfection by Jarno Wotmir last week. Of course, he allowed himself to be overtaken on the final lap, but knew that the DRS would come back to him in a later phase of the race as well. But again, the characteristics of this circuit are very different.
Yeah, I would say that this is a circuit that's far apart from everything else that we've witnessed. Obviously, we do have a little bit of elevation change at this track. You might see a slight little descent coming out to the final corner at turn 16, but you know, certainly not to the same extent that we saw at Austria in our previous round. But it's going to be fast and furious. Let us know in the live chat as to who you think is going to be victorious here at Qatar, folks. We're just waiting for the dying moments before we go racing here tonight. PSGL round 8. The final frontier now as we move into the second half of the championship proper and on the front row. And for the first time this season, it's Jarno Wotmir on pole position, joined at the hip with his new teammate, Freddie Rasmussen. Both of them, of course, working hard for the Red Bull team to bring them back to team superiority. Of course, Ferrari taking team superiority off the back of the F1 Sim Racing World Championship last season. I'm already seeing some names come in. Red Bull 1-2 says Rad Halim. We got Jarno for the win, says Phoenix Silver. Oliver Hutchinson saying Jarno. Alkin saying Freddie. Gotar on top step says Jason. Zeno Gratchke to win, says Archie Bryden. Dub Jarno says Robert Savaloy. We've got, Big C saying that's Jarno's second pole position in PSGL since 31. I'll do you one better, Big C, and this is a number that you won't fathom. It's his 8th pole altogether as we now watch the lights get lit here at Qatar, and it's pedal to the metal, and it is go. Great start for Jarno Wotmir. Great start as well for Freddie Rasmussen. Pookie just settling in behind. A great start also for Nicolas Longue, who's already up the inside and challenging Pedreño over a 4th place spot. Rasmussen's lost out. Pookie up to second. A fabulous start by the Hungarian, who splits the 2 Red Bulls, and Mercedes sits between them, and Pookie in Jarno's seat from last season, now chasing after the Flying Dutchman, Jack.
Yeah, great move by Pookie around the outside. He's on the medium tyre, of course. A couple of split strategies across the grid here, but now there's Pookie on the inside, taking over that P1 position away from Jarno Wotmir. Here comes Nicolas Longue on Rasmussen as well. They're both on mediums. They've got to make these moves early on, but great stuff from Istvan Pookie. Straight through to the lead of the Grand Prix. Jarno now second. Longue now holds 3rd position as they come now through Sector 2 for the first time. They need to get a move on here. Longue knows that this is crucial now. He has to go with Pookie if this is going to work for him now. In through the middle sector they go. You can see Pookie already starting to gap them as they make their way through into the final sector. But interesting stuff all the way through there. Pookie, great start.
Yeah, great start for Longue as well, who's currently all over Jarno Wotmir's tail. But bear in mind, Longue on mediums, as is Istvan Pookie. So they are on the faster tyre, fathom. Jake Benham now making his way around and past Ishmael Fassi at the same time as they round the final corner and will begin the next lap. But still, there you can see Benham on the attack again. Longue going for P2 as he now moves side by side with Jarno Wotmir, heads through, yes, through turn 1. It's Longue now into 2nd place. The Frenchman uprooting the Dutchman, and now Rasmussen following very closely behind is Red Bull teammate Benham, now ahead of Ruben Pedreño as well. Obviously Benham has a fond history of sorts here as well, Jack. Do you remember that one time where I think he took out Barry Burman?
Yes, that's probably won't be a good memory for him, but yeah, Jake Benham up to 6th is the biggest move of 5 places gained on the opening lap by Jake Benham as well. Josh Ito, good moves, up 4 places from where he started as well. So great moves being made there, but great stuff from Benham. Of course, he didn't have a good run out last time, so we'll be looking to try and change that today. So we'll see how this gets on. But the 2 medium runners, Istvan Pookie leads this Grand Prix. Nicolas Longue second, trying to go with them. Jarno Wotmir and Freddie Rasmussen 3rd and 4th. Tom Manley P5, but now being pressured by Jake Benham on the medium tyres as he now exits into Sector 3. You'd imagine Benham's going to be hungry to make this move quickly and use up these mediums as best as he possibly can. Into the final corner they go. This will be a very quick Grand Prix, of course, and you can see the difference in the mediums versus the hard tyre. Exiting the final corner now, DRS will open for Jake Benham, and knows he will want to make this move down towards turn number 1. DRS open, and of course the fresher medium tyres. Up the inside goes Benham. Another place gain for him up to P5.
Oh. Yeah, we've had 3 retirements. Prejne, the Caraton, they're all out here of the race. Here on lap 3 of 29, we saw Prejne dropping down the field on the opening lap. Well, now he's confirmed that he will take no further part, as will not Prejne and Alvaro Caraton. So Mercedes one-legged, McLaren effectively one-legged, and so are Williams. It's still Pookie, though, who leads the way. Nicholas Longuet down in second, obviously looking to try and chase for greater results for the Ferrari outfit that went on to become the F1 Sim Racing Teams champions in our last campaign, alongside, of course, Barry Burraman, who's also hard at work trying to lift his prospects. Josh Ido also hunting down now after Ismail Fassi, who's also shown up to be the aggressor, but Ido opting for that very aggressive initial stint, hovering all over the tail here of Ismail Fassi as they cruise through this next right-hander before they're making their way down towards turn 16. They have got 15, though, to come in between them. Pookie still on top, being closed upon now once more by Nicholas Longuet. Not too keen to lead here at this point. A look at the inside here from Ido, but now that's drawn him wide as now Ronha has a little look as well. They'll burst down the home straight this time. Here comes Longuet, fastest lap of the race, and takes P1 away as Pookie gets dropped to second.
Yeah, Ido having a little think about a move there, but it isn't quite far enough alongside to make that move. I was having a look at back at Danny Beres, and he had front wing damage, and that's retired him from the Grand Prix. And that's a disaster, again, championship-wise for him. So that would be, again, a mountain of work for him to do. Brendan Lee still 15th at the moment. So still a lot of work to do for the Englishman. He's up one place from where he started. Barry Borman going with them. And he was just behind right there as well. So to settle down just a little bit, Nicholas Longuet has now taken the lead here at Qatar, and Isfan Pookie now second. Of course, these guys, alternate strategy compared to everybody else. And you got Jake Benham P5 on the mediums as well, as is Josh Ido in P9. And they knew they had to make those moves early, but Pookie was, again, very, very assertive into turn 1, round the outside of Rasmussen and down the inside of Jarno Opmeer 2 corners later. Knew he had to do it and made it work.
Yeah, Nicholas Longuet's last win came in season 34. He actually took 2 that campaign as well. So it's a long time coming. See, in between that, we've had season 36. He did not take a victory then. Ido under pressure once more. This time, Ron Hart is all over his tail. Of course, the Alpine livery that we're now watching. So now they head around the final corner. Lap 4 will soon become lap 5. And they'll streak down through towards turn 1 again. Pookie now opening up the door here on Nicholas Longuet. And once again, the silver car takes the helm as they now round turn 1 again this time. Ismail Fassi still glued to the back of fellow Williams driver Ruben Pedreño, with Josh Ido there in behind too, with Thomas Ronhart getting so close to the back of the Alpine. There's now a head down this next straight before then beckoning into turn 4. And turn 5 will come next, and that'll bring an end to sector 1 as we now watch them make their way through. Still the status quo, Jack, not a lot has changed. Pookie and Longuet, though, swapping for the lead as you'd expect.
Yeah, Ido's getting frustrated now, stuck behind the 2 Williams in front of him again. This is not good for his strategy. He sort of needed to clear them as quickly as he could, but he's been stuck behind, and Ronar's now pressuring him behind as well. So not ideal for Josh Ido. Jake Benham sort of settled himself now into P5, up behind Rasmussen and Opmeer up at the front. But Isfan Pookie and Nicholas Longuet, they're happy to sort of just pace each other up front, swap on the back straight, or on the front straight, sorry, and they'll be able to try and make this strategy work for them as they come now around the last corner. Longuet going a tiny bit wide actually in that final corner. That won't have helped him as they cross the line again at lap number 6. We'll see if Longuet and Pookie will swap again. They certainly will. Pookie not going to put up a fight there, moves over to the right-hand side and loses minimal time. You can see how quickly Jarno Opmeer closes up to the back of them, almost passes him, but Ronnar now slots up the inside of Josh Ido, and that's not what Ido needed.
No, not at all. Jarno Opmeer now on the tail of the front tube, still being pursued by Freddie Rasmussen, but holding on very strong right now. Josh Ido, though, still persevering. Ron Har, though, gaining a place on him, which, like you so rightly say, Jack, is not ideal at all for the young Welshman. Since joined the Alpine team, this is his 3rd different team so far in the history of F1 sim racing, because it all started at McLaren, and then since moved then towards the Red Bull team, partnered at Freddie Rasmussen in last season's campaign as well. Of course, moved up from the the AlphaTauri lineup, and now since moved out from the Milton Keynes setup and has now since decided to join Enstone's Alpine organisation. He's got the ever-experienced Johnny Torner, incidentally, 2 drivers that have driven, of course, under the Red Bull banner, now operating at Alpine. Of course, Nathan Tague now in governance of that team with G2 now looking after the affairs of Alpine going forward, and we look forward to seeing how well they do with their new vision as they look to move onwards and ahead in pursuit of big championships. Thomas Ronhart once again on the back, this time of Ismail Fassi, moves up at the front though as Istvan Pukki now takes the lead. Jarno Opmeer threatening up the inside as well. Now the one thing that is obviously in hand here for Jarno Opmeer is that he still remains glued behind this front two. If they keep fighting, it will help them. Tom Manley also battling with Jake Benham, but if Opmeer stays like this, as Longue now takes the lead away from Pukki, this will work out perfectly for Jarno's strategy here.
Yeah, Benham is now, I think, there's in a bit of spot of trouble here. I think has he picked up damage on the left? He has. But he went damage. The Williams have hit each other in the middle of the corner. That's not gonna be good for team dynamics here as they come down into the next part of the corner. They're getting held up by Benham here. Around the outside goes Ronhar, pounces nicely around the outside of Pedreño. Now goes Bas Fassi, but Benham has picked up wing damage on the left-hand side of the end plate. So now Ronhar knows he needs to get by him quickly. Contact behind. Pedreño goes into the back of him there as they try to clear this lone Mercedes here. Now they're a second behind the leaders here. This is not what they needed. Fassi dropping down the order now as well as a result of all that as they come now through the middle of the sector. So this is losing them tons of time. You can see Ronhar not able to make the move quickly, and that's how quickly it all goes wrong. Here goes Ido up the inside of the final corner on the Williams in front. No downforce on the Mercedes there, and through goes Ronhar. In comes the stricken Mercedes of Jake Benham, and through goes Ronhar, Pedreño, Ido, and all of these cars behind. In front goes Otis Lawrence. He capitalises. Thomas Gall fancies a look as well as they go in towards turn number 1. Fassi will be very frustrated with all of that, and he was at the front of that train and now has ended up back in a fight with Josh Ido. Around the outside he goes, still side by side as they come through the corner. They eventually sort themselves out, but that's cost them so dearly.
It definitely has. Jake Benham as well. Looks like that's going to be a retirement coming into the pits. He has left the session. Still side by side though between Fassi and Ido as they head down in towards the next left-hander. Fassi leaving it long around the outside. Ido though coming back. The Welshman now still running closely alongside here of the Williams as they now dash through the next right coming out of turn 7, and this time Fassi holds on, but there is a little gap now brewing between he and Otis Lawrence. That's going to allow Otis to sort of just focus on what's ahead of him here, which is Ismail Fassi's teammate Ruben Pedreño. So there's now a string of hards from Opmeer all the way down to Fassi in P9. Ido now stuck in 10th place on the medium tyre. Duncan Hoffman also on the move, as well as brush past teammate Fabrizio Donoso. Obviously that might be some team orders on part of Aston Martin, knowing that Duncan's got plenty of pace behind him. Let him attack these front runners, cause a stir in the pot, Jack.
Absolutely, yeah. So that's how quickly it can all go a bit wrong. Ronhar now working hard to get back up to the leaders here as they cross the line to begin lap number 9. And now here comes Istvan Pukki in 3 wide. Jarno Opmeer trying to go back to the front as well, up the inside. Double overtake for Jarno Opmeer. So those mediums now not working as well as they were before. But Jarno makes the move, goes to the front. Rasmussen decided not to go by as well. Those mediums now struggling, but Jarno Opmeer retakes the lead.
Fantastic move there for Jarno Opmeer. Just making his way through turn 1, managing to dodge past Pukki and Longue. Once again, this will work wonders for Jarno Opmeer's strategy. Remember, starting out on the hard tyres, he can go that little bit longer and extend than Istvan Pukki and Nicolas Longue. And bear in mind, these hard tyres are great race tyres. Brendan Lee also on the attack, this time on Fabrizio Donoso, the 2 title rivals from 2017. And Brendan Lee unable to get this move done. Donoso preventing him from getting past as they now head through the middle sector. Very shortly, they'll streak up through towards turn 12. Donoso with a slight lockup as Brendan Lee still goes on the hunt, but he's got Barry Burman in behind, and that's going to be a tricky battle, Jack.
Yeah, Donoso struggling out in front for traction there, and Brendan almost followed him there as they came through that sector, but he's getting frustrated behind, but needs to keep calm and try and get up towards into the points at the very least as they now go over the line once again. So Opmeer now at the front of the train, but I don't think he's going to stay there for very much longer as they come across the line once again. Can expect it to be possibly a double move here. Istvan Pukki goes through, Longue goes through, Rasmussen is going to pace himself and stay behind his teammate here, and all returns to Istvan Pukki back to the lead now. But Ronar has worked back into that DRS now and is now right behind the leaders, dragging Ruben Pedreño, Otis Lawrence and Ishmael Fassi. He'll be frustrated with all of that, and probably won't be happy that the two teammates collided with each other.
The swaps continue as well, with Pukki and Longue now overtaking Jarno Opmeer, so they return the send, heading through on lap 10. And, very shortly will make their way through the middle sector once more. As now, Istvan Pukki trains them through towards this right-hander once again at turn 7. Sector 2 proper is where they currently sit, but the battle still, I'd imagine there's plenty more to come. Donoso and I think Brendan Lee still side by side, having a little bit of fun here. Donoso's managed to defend against Lee quite convincingly, but squeezing up the inside here from Brendan Lee coming out of turn 11, but still they'll duel. Now on the sprint leading up towards turn 12. Donoso defending. Here comes Barry Burman at the inside now as they come side by side. Donoso retains 13th. Brendan Lee drops to 15th, and Burman sits in between.
Yeah, he's not going to be happy with him, is he? He sort of picked up a 3-second warning there, and did Brendan Lee. So that's a 3-second time penalty if he added to his time for being forced wide there. But I had a big smile on my face watching that battle. That was incredible between Brendan Lee and Fabrizio Donoso side by side for an entire sector, and then he finds the gap and goes through. But another position lost there, losing position to Joni Tormelo, and then Borman up the inside of Donoso, and he's moved up into 13th place now as well. So Brendan Lee left frustrated after all of that. He ends up losing 2 places.
Yeah, and also there was a big squabble up at the front as well. Jarno Opmeer tried to go for that double overtake once more, but Pukki said no, though Opmeer did get past Nicolas Longue, so he got some bang for his buck anyway, as they now head out of the left-hander at turn 6. Energy light flashing on the back of Jarno Opmeer's car as he looks to try and conserve some ERS to recharge, to maybe land a blow to Istvan Pukki. Now, the one thing that Jarno will have in hand is that he will have slipstream, or not necessarily slipstream, but DRS on Istvan Pukki down the long straight leading through towards turn 1. But obviously still a few corners left here in the final sector. And look who's come to join them as well. Freddie Rasmussen has arrived on the scene to apply pressure against Nicolas Longue. Just look at the gaps, look at the margins. Fine margins, just over 1/10 of a second between the Great Dane and Nicolas Longue. How's your bottle, Nico? As they head through the final corner at turn 16. Further back, Tom Manley, also part of the Red Bull family. But Longue comes into the pits first, Jack. That's an early call.
It is an early call, but it was probably a timely one. Here comes Opmeer then, past Istvan Pukki. Further behind is there's a thought of a move by Pedreño. There, a little bit of contact between Ronar and Tom Manley in towards turn 1, but they sort themselves out, and they go through there. Opmeer retakes the lead now, and Longue will come out now in some clean air. Ido followed him in as well, so there'll be those two will be together on the circuit now, but still plenty to come in this race now as they exit into Sector 2. Donoso, I think, or it was that Otis Lawrence, Otis Lawrence sends it down the inside of Pedreño in the middle sector there, but can't quite get the move done, has to slot behind his counterpart there as they go through sector number 2. So it's all happening out on the circuit right there, but Jarno gapping Istvan Pukki slightly now. Of course, those mediums are not healthy right now, so this is a good opportunity to try to get away.
Yeah, it certainly is that. Jarno Opmeer now in front, and he's actually managed to put near enough 6/10 on Pukki in behind, which will help through the course of this initial stint. Fassi once again also probing the back of Otis Lawrence, and was within 1/10 of a second at one point, and is ferrying along Tamas Gal and Duncan Hofland into the fight as well. Barry Burman has also managed to hold on to 11th place, currently sits just over 6/10 of a second in behind Hofland as now more cars come in, and in fact it's Istvan Pukki who's next to jump. So all those on the mediums now, Jack, coming in. Now everyone will be on hards.
Yeah, so of course everybody else is going to swap to the mediums later on, so this will be interesting to watch how it all pans out. So Longue and Ido, second and a half apart. Istvan Pukki coming down the pit lane now. We're going to watch for Nicolas Longue and see where he comes out. He's coming down the pit straight now, so it is going to be very tight as with the speed differential. Onto the power goes Istvan Pukki, and he comes out. He will be in front for a moment on Nicolas Longue, but of course he won't have the momentum going through the first corner, but he does come out in front of Nicholas Longe. And bear in mind, Longe made the call to come in first, but still ends up behind.
And yet that could cost him later on, because he will have, of course, additional wear on his compound of tyre. So not a lot of difference in terms of the order. Obviously between, well, certainly as far as Istvan Pukki and Nicholas Longe are concerned. Obviously Josh Ito also coming in the same time as Nicholas Longe. We're just watching him in the background. If anyone's actually banked off this, Jack, it's Ito, I think, because only 1.1. If he gets to within DRS, then he might put himself into a net battle for the lead of the race.
Certainly could. He's trying his best to stick with these guys, get into DRS. If he can get himself into DRS, so he can be dragged along here. But he's really struggling for traction in that Alpine. He had a big moment just as we went on board with him there, as he's trying to keep with them, but is almost out of battery now as Rasmussen goes to the front for the first time, and he will take the lead off of his teammate Jarno Wantmir in towards turn 1 as we are just approaching half distance in this Grand Prix now. So Rasmussen goes to the front, Wantmir now second, Manley now runs third, and Thomas Ronnar runs in 4th place for now. But still a long way to go in this race. Only halfway through the first round of pit stops for the guys who started on the mediums are now, and Longe moves in front of Istvan Pukki. They've got to work together now to make this work.
Yeah, they're going to be swapping consistently, you'd imagine. Obviously, they're both sharing similar strategies and going early on their stops. Remember, both of them starting on medium tyres, now on the hard, so that is their strategy essentially concluded. If you look at the drivers that are all out on hard tyres that have been out now for 13 laps, they'll all be coming in very soon to jump onto their medium tyres, so it won't be long before we see those stops come into fruition. I do wonder whether we'll see anyone. Will anyone plump for the softs, do you think, Jack?
It'll be an interest. I'm not sure. I don't think so. I think the softs will be probably a bit of I've never seen anybody use them around here, so maybe somebody might try something different, but I can probably see it being quite standard with the mediums later on. The mediums, as you saw, were very strong in that early part of the race. We've seen now the first hard runners are now pitting, and it's the 2 Williams of Pedreño and Fassi have decided to go for it.
They now watch Wantmir still lead up at the front, so that's 2 cars that have come in, both Williamses, Fassi and Pedreño. Rasmussen still remains behind the Flying Dutchman, with further back Tom Manley. It's a Red Bull family, 1, 2 and 3 right now, with Thomas Ronnar right behind them. Otis Lawrence also part of this initial scrap. Nicholas Longe sets the fastest lap of the race so far, and in fact swaps with Istvan Pukki once again as they look to try and use the DRS to further their cause, and if anything it's helped them massively, because Josh Ito has actually lost out, I think, a little bit of time, but has just now seen Ruben Pedreño come out on fresh medium tyres in front of him, Jack. So we now head around on lap 15 of 29. Still no changes further down. Wantmir still in control of this race. 3.5 tenths between Wantmir and Rasmussen. The front 2 still leading the way for Red Bull. Thomas Ronnar then further back in 4th place. 1.5 tenths between Ronnar and Manley. To wait and see whether we'll see some of the hard runners come into the box, or will they continue to go around. They won't follow suit with what Pedreño or Fassi have done. Of course, they both deciding to box early for the Williams team, going for that undercut to see whether they could then strike it in position on many that have chosen to obviously go on to the alternate strat. And so far it looks like it has indeed worked, but obviously the question is how those mediums going to fare in the closing stages of the race, Jack.
Yeah, it's quite early to go on to those, but you can see Barry Borman has responded. He's now boxing, going on to a set of the medium tyres as well, so we'll see where he's going to filter out now. Of course, he started last on the grid, fastest lap for Istvan Pukki as they came across the line, now swapping with Longe as they come across the start-finish line. Then you have Josh Ito and the 2 Williams cars, and Barry Borman is going to filter out just behind all of those guys there. So he's going to try and get up to them right now. So it's all about now Istvan Pukki and Nicholas Longe not losing time with each other, and the medium runners behind as well. But it will be interesting to see how those mediums hold up, because for Pedreño and Fassi at the very least, that did seem like quite early to make that call.
It did, and you've got to wonder whether they're going to hold out as well. We're just watching Istvan Pukki, who's currently sat in P12 as we're seeing it out on track. Obviously that could be a very different set of affairs when we see those that have already boxed on the when we see those that are currently on the hard tyres box onto the mediums, and you'd fathom that this is going to be any time now. Will we see any others plumb for a stop? Not this time. Rasmussen remaining out, as is Jarno Wantmir, so oh no, maybe not. They're coming in. Here comes Rasmussen. They went rather wide coming into the box, but it certainly looks like Rasmussen, Manley, Tamashgal, they're going to be coming in. Medium tyres, no doubt, in preparation for their final stints. Now, all eyes on Tamashgal, all eyes, I should say, on Nicholas Longue and Istvan Pukki, Jack.
It is, yeah. I said they should filter out in front, but they won't have those fresh mediums of the guys behind. Well, here comes Longue across the start-finish line. Istvan Pukki will swap with him now, and you'll see they will filter out in front, but again, they won't have the tyre life, and they are on the hards compared to the mediums, but they have filtered out in front. Rasmussen getting now side by side with Josh Eno, does filter out in front, and Barry Borman has now ended up behind Tom Manley. But this, if anything, the man that is going to be, who's going to be desperate for it to work for him, is Barry Borman. Remember, he started last on the grid, had a qualifying ban, so is trying his best to damage limitate this as he comes through now. But good stuff for Istvan Pukki and Nicholas Longue. They remain at the front of this train for now, but it's going to be a very tough ask for them to stay up the front with all these medium runners behind them.
Yeah, it certainly will be. I tell you what, it's worked out for Williams. They've managed to mastermind this undercut to a certain degree, but the big question for them will be tyre life coming in towards the closing stages of the race. But they have managed to put themselves in a position where Pedreño and Fassi are now in the pound seats in terms of the battle over the net race lead, as we now see Jarno Watmere come into the pits as well. So that's yet another driver coming in. We'll see where he filters out. There's his teammate Freddie Rasmussen, who currently sits in P12, but the big question is where will he filter out in behind Istvan Pukki and Nicholas Longue. Again, we're seeing Pedreño hovering all over the back of the Frenchman as they now come out to the final corners here to begin their lap 19 of 29, or it will indeed be lap 18 of 29 here at this stage, but they're going to fan out now and go 3 wide, and this time Pedreño at the inside coming through turn 1 on those medium tyres, and the Williams now moves on that, but the big question is, has he got enough car? Alongside Longue fighting back relentlessly as he looks to try and take it back, but Pedreño with more than enough to carry him through to the net race lead, and Pukki waiting in the wings to challenge Nicholas Longue.
Fassi's trying to pounce on the outside of Istvan Pukki as he made it work. He's got the inside for the next corner, side by side with Istvan Pukki. Through goes Ismail Fassi. The Williams are on fire here. Freddie Rasmussen pouncing on the outside as well on those medium tyres. The hards now, this is where they're going to struggle in this phase of the race. Rasmussen goes through up around the outside, but now net race leader Ruben Pedreño started 4th on the grid for Williams. Longue now the cork in the bottle, you would say, and Ismail Fassi trying to follow his teammate through, so it could be for the moment Williams 1 and 2 when we start the next lap, of course, and everybody in front is now pitting as they now come in to get rid of those hard tyres. They'll have fresher mediums towards the end of this race now, and this is going to be fascinating stuff. Early undercut, Tom Manley now pouncing as well on Istvan Pukki up the inside of the final corner. He makes the move stick now as they come down the straight. You see the weaving trying to break the toe, and Fassi now trying to follow his teammate, but as they cross the line now, it will be, you'll see now, Longue move to the inside to try and retake that lead, but here comes Ismail Fassi around the outside on the hard tyres, trying to make it work to follow his teammate inside line for the next corner. It's Williams 1 and 2 in Qatar.
Yeah, fantastic job from the Williams team. Ismail Fassi gave it his all and managed to actually pivot himself alongside Longue to try and unsettle the Ferrari. Pedreño now still holding on to net lead, well, certainly the net P1 position, 2nd place on track, just behind Brendan Lee. We did see as well Fabrizio Donoso held in the pit box, unfortunately coming unstuck, and that is the danger where it comes to the multiplayer car. Jarno Watmere on the attack as well as he looks to try and challenge Josh Eno. They're going to go wheel to wheel. This time here on lap 19, the Dutchman, who, of course, remember, started on the front row, started on pole position alongside his teammate, now coming up against Tamashgal this time, as Jarno looks to uproot every single driver, left, right and centre, on fresher medium tyres, and Jarno now up to 9th. Barry Burman, who is also on an incredible run. Remember where he started at the very tail of the field, and he's in the top 10, Jack.
He is his net P6. Amazing job by Barry Borman so far, and he continues to charge it. He's not in a bad shape. He's got 3 lap ball medium tyres and still in good shape. Now here comes Freddie Rasmussen versus Nicholas Longue. The drag race down the pit straight they go, and Ismail Fassi will swap with his teammate Longue trying to follow. Here comes Rasmussen. Where does he filter out in all this? He's not made any positions. Longue trying to make his way through on Ruben Pedreño, who's fighting with his teammate up front as well, but Ismail Fassi goes to the front now here in Qatar. This is going to be a frantic 10-lap sprint to the end.
It is. I tell you what, Williams are currently in control as well, but the big question is, are those tyres going to last? We have got 9 laps still remaining, and Longuet is going to apply the pressure, locks up the tyres ever so slightly, coming through the left-hander out of turn 6. And now on the run up through towards turn 7, we'll have to wait in behind, but in behind there's more danger to come because Barry Burraman and Jarno Opmeer, the 2 drivers that have fought relentlessly in PSGL, are now starting to, well, slice and dice their way through the field and will very shortly be taking part in this lead battle. They are within DRS. Rasmussen also looking to persevere after Nicolas Longuet. Of course, again, Longuet, another driver that represented Red Bull at one time. Remember that it was his first team in F1 sim racing. Now this time at Ferrari, and looking to hold back the force, the tirade that is Red Bull, because Manley also is waiting in the wings. Lap 20 will soon become lap 21. Fassi takes them along. Pedreño in his wheel tracks, with Longuet now looking to open up. Again, Williams lay down the wall, heading in towards turn 1 this time. Here comes Rasmussen, looking to try and break down Longuet. Round the outside he'll go. He will have the inside pin though, against Longuet, coming through out of turn 2, and now in towards turn 3. Tom Manley is also going to join him. The Challengers champion now moves into P4, and 2 Red Bull drivers now sit 3 and 4 with their fellow Red Bull counterpart Jarno Opmeer trying to move up out of P6.
Yeah, he's overtaken Barry Borman there as well. Pookie is getting eaten alive behind. There's a little concertina effect behind as Thomas Gall trying to get by as well. Couldn't quite do it. They don't have the grip on those hard tyres. The mediums are so much fresher as they now exit through sector 2. So Rasmussen runs 3rd now. Manley, the Challengers champion, the winner in Silverstone, runs 4th. Nicolas Longuet hasn't had a victory this season but is now struggling on those hard tyres with an alternate strategy here. But Ruben Pedreño and Ishmael Fassi, 1 and 2, currently out front in the Williams cars, and Pedreño really trying to make as big of a gap as he can. Ishmael Fassi trying to play the team game here, trying to hold this big train of cars back from him here as they exit now onto the pit straight now. Pedreño trying desperately to get a first win on the board for Williams. Can Ishmael Fassi do it, or is this now the chance for Rasmussen to try and pounce? Down towards turn 1 they go. Manley inside as well as they fan out in towards turn 1. Up the inside goes Ishmael Fassi. Pedreño protecting his teammate on the inside as well as they exit into the next part of the corner. Into turn 2 they go through. Pedreño goes back to the front again. Manley fancies a chance on the outside. Now he's found a little gap to try to work with as they exit towards turn 4. He's got the outside line. Has he got the grip to make it work? Inside for Fassi. Little bit of contact made through turn 4 and turn 5. Inside for Manley. Contact again through the midway through the corner. Does he have the traction? They're still neck and neck as they exit through the next part of the corner. Manley eventually backs out of it, going through there. The Williams are putting on an amazing display. They've somehow held on.
Yeah, and I must say, extraordinary as well, because when you fathom they have got the oldest tyres of anybody on the medium stints here in this final, in the final echelons of this race, but they've raised the wall. It's a war of attrition out there, and Ishmael Fassi has done brilliantly to keep Tom Manley in behind, but I get the feeling that he's going to be under pressure once more, and I think he's going to try and allow Ruben Pedreño as much breathing room as possible to at least see a Williams car up on the top step of the podium, or at least on the podium here in this race, which would truly be no mean feat on part of what they've managed to achieve so far in this race. Once again, they'll burst down towards turn 1. This time Manley is going to exercise his right to challenge. Again, the wall goes up. Further back, we've also got moves. Tom Manley contact again. This time, though, with Ruben Pedreño. Rasmussen goes through as well. Red Bull now rewrite the script. The 2 of them now move up into the top 2 places. Manley and Rasmussen joined at the hip. Piece 1 and piece 2, but back comes Fassi.
Pedreño's been left out to dry there down in P8. Now Fassi's got a penalty now as well. That's not gone well for Williams. It was going really well, but now it's all come unstuck in one single move in towards turn number 1. So Manley leads the race from Freddie Rasmussen. Fassi will not be a factor in this battle with the penalty, of course. But of course, that's pending stewards' inquiries afterwards. Otmir runs forward, but Barry Borman's now in the fight. P5 for Barry Borman. He's come from last on the grid to get himself up to here as well. Ronar's got a penalty. They're all starting to get track limit warnings now. But Tom Manley is in position now, up at the front. He's already taken the victory this season at Silverstone. Rasmussen, desperate for his luck to turn around, is now in P2, but there's still, in PSGL terms, there's still a long way to go in this race. We're going to cross to begin lap number 24 of 29 here in Qatar, and it's all still up in the air.
It certainly is. It's still Manley though out in front, but here comes the swap. Freddie Rasmussen now moves up, but keep your eyes peeled on the Williams in behind. Fassi trying to throw his car on the inside. This time it's the turn of Manley and Rasmussen to do exactly what the Williams drivers were doing for numerous laps through the course of the second stint through this race. Jarno Otmir now also persevering. He's now moved up alongside and managed to move his way into the top three. Fantastic by the Flying Dutchman. Fassi's lost out twice because now Burman is in P4 and Lungay lost it, Jack.
Yeah, that's it. Again, these guys are struggling on the hard tyres, let's not forget. But Barry following Jarno through. Again, these two experienced guys, the two most successful drivers in PSGL history, putting on a display here in Qatar once again. Barry from the very back of the grid is now running in 4th place and is in a decent enough position right now, but he has got the oldest tyres out of the top 4. So let's see how this is going to work for him, but he is still in with a very good chance here. And let's see how the mediums hold up. Of course, the hards may come back in later, but we highly doubt it as they now exit their way towards the final corner once again. It is Rasmussen who leads. Tom Manley is second. Then it's Jarno Otmir, followed by Barry Borman as they now head down towards turn number 1. Borman knows that he's got a good chance now to try to get himself up onto the podium once again as they come towards turn 1. Manley, does he go for it? Here comes Borman with a look. Here comes Otmir with the look around the outside in towards turn 1. Has he got enough to try and stick it up the inside? No, he doesn't. And they hold position for now as Longay and Isfan Pookie trade places behind on those hard tyres. Even though they're down to 6th and 7th, they're still hanging on just about. Here's Otis Lawrence, sticks it up the inside of Ruben Pedreño. He's now up to 8th place, but of course he has got penalties.
Yeah, and he's also brought Duncan Hofland through as well. Hofland now up to 9th place. Tormala has moved up into the top 10 in his Alpine as well. The ever-experienced Joni Tormala, the Finn sensation, who has been in the world of F1 sim racing now for so many years. Corlett since 2017, he's been there. Brendan Lee also moving up as well as he looks to try and dice it out with Ruben Pedreño, and he's on the cusp of points as well. Much needed points in terms of his title challenge, and Thomas Ronhaar following suit. Remember, those two followed suit back in season 34, where Brendan Lee would take the first ever race win here at Qatar, here in PSGL PCF1, but it doesn't look like lightning is going to strike twice this time in season 36. But at the moment, all the cards are stacked in Red Bull's favour. It's Freddie Rasmussen, the Great Dane, the reigning F1 sim racing champion, who takes them through towards turn 1. Tom Manley sat in second in behind as well, remains behind the Dane, as now Jarno Otmir also comes up to join them. The question is, will Jarno become the first pole to victory, the first pole to podium, or will Freddie Rasmussen, with his lucky rabbit's foot, break his unlucky streak, Jack?
We're going to wait and see, because there's still a couple of laps still left to go here, and of course neither of these guys, I don't think many of them actually want to lead here, but Borman is probably the most, he's again one of the most aggressive out there when it comes to going for moves. So let's see what Borman decides to do here. He's got to keep in mind he's on the oldest tyres of these top 4s. Duncan Hofland is on another fantastic drive. Again, moves to P8 in that Aston Martin. Is on 7-lap-old medium tyres, very fresh, so still in with a decent chance here. He's putting on a great display. Once again is Duncan Hofland, so let's keep one eye on that as he makes his way through. And there's still lap 26 and 29, but Rasmussen leads the way with just a couple of laps still to go here in Losail. But what do they do now? Does he want to lead, or does he want to be the second car out of that final corner as they come across to begin lap 27 of 29?
Well, can you believe it? What a race it has truly been As we now make our way in the dying few laps, and now once again the three Red Bulls sit in tandem. Barry Burman though has fought his way from the very back. Of course, did not even take part in qualifying. He started from the rear. He now somehow made his way through to P4 here in the closing dying moments in this race, maybe carrying 2 additional laps of wear on his tyres than the likes of Otmir, sat in 3rd place, who is currently in the pound seats and sitting, waiting for his chance here to strike against the others in front, as Pookie now looks to try and alleviate some pressure that currently perseveres in behind, including Duncan Hoffland, who's now trying to advance his position once more up the inside now of this man Pookie again, but this time can't quite. Well, no, he did do it. It's his teammate Otis who is looking to move on through. Again, another stellar display from Duncan Hoffland here tonight.
Yeah, when he picked up a penalty doing that, so that's not gonna help his chances right there. That's gonna drop him behind Pookie anyways when it comes to penalties. This is probably the most penalties we've seen all season. Of course, Qatar are well renowned for how difficult it is to avoid penalties, so you can see that there's quite a substantial chunk of 3-second penalties. That will give Thomas Gall points when this is all tallied up at the end. So we'll wait and see. Lap number 20. Again, this is all going to be very, very hectic towards the end. Lap 28 of 29. Does anybody go for a move now? Here comes Tom Manley. He's having a think about it, but he doesn't want to go for it, and he wants to be the man there. But Barry Borman fancies a chance on Jarno Otmir behind as well, in towards turn 2. Not enough to get alongside right there, but as you can see, the Iranian is really feisty this evening.
Yeah, Burman, of course, winning his first PSGL crown, his title, not too long ago in a battle with Thomas Ronhart. It was quite the contest. It was decided in the stewards' room, but still, it arrived. It took a little longer than perhaps he would have anticipated, but he managed to claim it. Jarno Otmir, though, has won 5 of them, looking to chase down his 6th PCF1 crown, and it'll be his 7th PSGL title as a whole here in this series. As we now watch them make their way around on the penultimate lap of the race, it's still Rasmussen who controls everything. He currently holds all the cards at the moment up at the front. Tom Manley sat in behind, waiting for his chance as they now round the final few corners here on this penultimate lap. Lap 28 will soon become 29 as they come out of turn 14 through towards turn 15 and now towards the final bend at turn 16, where they'll meet DRS for the final time and then venture down towards turn 1. It's Freddie Rasmussen who leads the way. Tom Manley waiting in the wings as well. Jarno Otmir looking to try and pounce, maybe to enlist a 3rd race win this season and go back to back. But here comes Barry Burman. Manley now takes the lead. Rasmussen and Otmir wheel to wheel. The Dutchman now moves into 2nd, the Dane down to 3rd. So there you have it. Nothing that Barry could do about that. The Wolves of Red Bull were up Jack Cannan.
Yeah, nothing Rasmussen could do there, but Manley takes the lead on the final lap of the race. Otmir now trying to convert this pole to victory. This will be the first time anybody scored a podium from pole position this season, but very little movement there. But Tom Manley on his way to try and convert to a 2nd victory this season. He took one in Silverstone in spectacular fashion, but he's on course now for his 2nd victory of the season. But can he hold off the reigning champion for PSGL in the form of Jarno Otmir? He's done it once before. A little bit of a moment there for Otmir as he tries to get in front of the young Englishman in front, but he's running out of chances here. Is there any more left in the tank? He's got a lot more ERS, I can say that, compared to him up front. 25% for Tom Manley, 73 in the tank for Jarno Otmir, so there still could be a last-ditch effort here, but he might just run out of time as they head towards the final corner. Is there a last twist in the tail? Onto the power they go. It's a run for the line, but for the 2nd time this season, it will be Tom Manley by 0.03 of a second who wins for the 2nd time here in Qatar. What a race that was, and the young Englishman returns to the top step once again this season. Jarno Otmir holds on for 2nd place, the first podium from pole position, and extends that championship lead out once again to an almost...
Well, a truly masterful effort on part of Tom Manley. That's his 2nd victory this campaign. His 3rd victory in PSGL PCF1 to this season. He joins Jarno Otmir's record so far this campaign. Of course, Jarno taking his 2nd back at Austria. It is now the 2nd for Tom Manley here, this time at Qatar. What a momentous occasion for the team that is Red Bull. Of course, they have got such a staunch level of quality. young drivers coming through from F1 Esports Challengers. Tom Manley being one of them. He is in number 3 and the second one this season, Jack. I mean, what a rise for this young man.
Yeah, brilliant job. Controlled it nicely. Sort of ran his own race for the whole way through. Started 7th and made his way through. And again, great strategy call once again from Tom Manley and the team there. And he gets himself second victory of the season. The only other driver to win more than one race this season is Tom Manley. And well, you could say now, pole position once again doesn't work. Jarno Opmeer finished second this time, but it's the first time somebody's at least got a podium out of it. And Rasmussen finally something went his way in a way, gets himself on the podium in 3rd place. But of course, there wasn't really anything he could do about that. He was leading on the final lap, and nothing he could do about the very quick cars behind him in the form of Jarno Opmeer and Tom Manley. But fabulous drive again. Barry Borman last to 4th. Incredible drive. Incredible. But what we can say is that is a huge result for Jarno Opmeer's championship. Brendan Lee scored 0 points, as did Danny Beresnay. And of course, keep in mind, Jarno also picked up a bonus point for pole position as well. So that is huge now, and he's now got a 2-race buffer over Brendan Lee.
Yeah, which is going to obviously mean everything as far as the championship's concerned. And we're heading, obviously, stateside for the next 2 rounds as well, Jack, with Texas and Brazil, should I say Vegas just around the corner, Brazil and Abu Dhabi coming up a little later on. But, I mean, what a performance. I mean, Red Bull have got a lot to be excited about, haven't they? I mean, the fact that you've brought in Jarno, being, of course, the reputation he's got is truly unbelievable. I mean, let's just talk as well about Manley. Of course, a Challengers champion. Again, a victor back at Silverstone earlier on this campaign. And that's his 3rd PSGL victory. I mean, there's more to come from this young man. And Red Bull have got plenty of irons in the fire.
They certainly do, yeah. And he'll, of course, take some great comfort in the fact that he managed to beat Rasmussen and Opmeer again on pure pace alone, and great strategy call as well. So he's really, again, putting on a great show compared to and he'll be very pleased with that performance. 2nd victory of the season for him, and will bring him into sort of title contention, I would say. It'll bring him, give him a good boost, considering Danny Beresnay and Brendan Lee didn't score any points today as well. So, but that is going to be a huge result for them. It'll also be a massive result in the constructors, George, as well, because you remember Sauber were leading that championship. They've come out of this result with 0 points. Red Bull 2nd and 3rd. Yeah.
Obviously, that's going to make a huge difference as well as far as the championship's concerned. But I mean, obviously, it's been a tough day as well for the Kick Sauber team in many ways. Obviously, Brendan Lee not managing to maximise much off the back of a difficult qualifying session. Heartbreak for Aston Martin as well, Jack. I mean, Otis and Fabrizio not having necessarily the best of days. Of course, Duncan very much flying the flag for them today.
Yeah, and it could have been a bit more for Duncan Hoffland. Of course, he picked up that penalty towards the end as well, so it could have been a little bit more. But again, Duncan Hoffland showing another points paying position for him. Podium last week, of course, and he's already taken a victory already this season as well. So it's been a really good season so far for Duncan Hoffland. But it's looking more likely that we're going to see a 6-time champion this season once again in Jarno Opmeer, because it's been a while since we've seen a gap that large in the championship.
Yeah, and bear in mind as well, he has won championships with less victories than this. We allude to the one that he clinched with the 1 victory, of course, back in season 34. I mean, prior to that, he won the season 27 title with 5 wins, but we had more races that campaign. And further on from that, 3 wins back in season 29, season 30, 6 wins. But 1 victory in season 31. Went through a bit of a dry spell through season 31 and 33. Of course, we would see the likes of Ron Ha battling with Barry Burman. Burman taking his title. Lucas Blakely would go on to win his championship. But it definitely looks like it, Jack, that given that there is, additional points now on top of what we've seen, once again, Opmeer has put himself in a grand position. It's all on Brendan Lee and those behind now as well, not forgetting Danny Beresnay. It's a big win for Tom Manley as well, I mean, given the championship as well, because, I mean, he came into this sat in 4th place, of course, coming in on 40 points, was only 7 points behind Danny Beresnay. He's going to be right up there and fighting for these final races.
He is, yeah. I think that's going to put him. It should put him 2nd in the championship now. That result, yeah. Because I know that Beresnay and Brendan Lee weren't separated by very much. There was only a single digits between them. So Tom Manley now 2nd you would imagine, the championship. Of course, all these are provisional results. There could be stewards' inquiries afterwards, we don't know. But we know for certain that there's a big lead for Jarno Opmeer in the championship now, and he can afford to have a bad race or two now before we get to the end of the season. But it's amazing, the consistency every single time. Even though it may not be in the best position pace-wise, he still manages to come out. But this has been one of his strongest seasons, you would say. 2 wins so far, a pole position, and is now leading the championship with almost a 2-race buffer. And again, when you think about it, the only 2 people who've actually taken a championship aside from him is Lucas Blakely and Barry Borman. So it's esteemed companies in there, but on his way, you would say, to a 6th title.
Yeah, I think so. And it doesn't look like we're going to be receiving any interviews today by the looks of it. So we're probably going to leave those alone. But a big thank you to each and every single one of you at home for tuning in as well, folks. I mean, appreciate obviously all your support as always, whether you've been tuned in on YouTube or even on Twitch. Once again, we've seen a very dramatic race with now the final frontier ahead. In fact, we can take a little quick look at the season's calendar, because of course that can give you guys some detail as to where we're heading next. Of course, we've just done Qatar. We're heading to Las Vegas on October 2nd. Saying that, we do have a break week, so I think it's been pushed back ever so slightly. So we do have a break week next week, folks. Do not pay any attention necessarily to those dates. We will be back the following week. But round 9 will be at Las Vegas, round 10 at Texas, round 11 at Brazil for the penultimate round, and then the final round at Abu Dhabi, where we will crown a champion. But we could well crown it way before then, should Jarno keep up this stellar run. Could yet be crowned a 6-time PSGL PCF1 champion. What a number that would be to the most dominant force in league racing in the modern era. But folks, if you enjoyed the show, please make sure you first and foremost, if you've been tuned in on YouTube, be sure to leave a like and also subscribe as well. And if you've been tuned in on Twitch, big hello to you guys too. Be sure to leave a follow and stay up to date with when we go live. Don't forget, we've got many other tiers that are, of course, broadcasting PSGL action, whether it be on console or, of course, on PC. And you can also check out PSGL on the social medias at PremierSimGL on Twitter, Instagram and TikTok. And I tell you what, if you enjoyed listening to me and Jack Canan as well, you can check out our social medias too. Links, by the way, to the standings are in the live chat as well, kindly given to us by Wehan Van Vyk as well. Apologies if I butchered your name. But if you did enjoy the commentary, you can check us out as well at George Morgan TV on Twitter, Instagram and TikTok. And Jack, where can they find you, sir?
You can find me at JackCComs on Twitter if you so choose.
Absolutely. Well, we've got a huge title fight starting to brew, but it looks like it might be going down the road of Jarno Opmeer. Brand new to the Red Bull team, but still keeps on winning. Can anybody stop him? Next round we'll be at, we'll be heading stateside. Be sure to join us then, folks. But until then, goodbye.